And we are live.
Hello, everyone. It's Inappropriate Characters. Can everyone hear me out there on the chat? Anyways, this is the RPG Pundit, and I'm here tonight, as usual, with Venger and Joe. And
Everybody.
This is kind of a combination episode tonight, where this is the last episode we have before Halloween. And speaking of horror, it's also the last episode before the American election. So we'll be talking about both of those things. Anyway, to start us off, I figured let's start a little bit with a little bit of a softball topic here. A lot of gamers like Halloween, and obviously Halloween is a big deal in North America. Those of you who are in Europe, probably not nearly as much, though I know that in a few places there you've got some Halloween stuff that has started to become popular. Here in South America, there really isn't, Halloween isn't a tradition. They have the Day of the Dead instead. But even down here, all gamers know what Halloween is, and know about it. And I don't do something really special for Halloween, but usually whatever game I happen to be running as close as possible to Halloween, I'll make that session in some way a little bit of a spooky kind of session. So last year, I think it was last year, or the year before that, one of my RPG Pundit Presents adventures called The Child Eaters was actually a product. And I think the one called Secret Order of the Red Lady too. Both of those were stuff from my Albion campaign. And both of those started as basically the session I ran for Halloween, because they're kind of, creepy occult stuff. And anyway, so that's basically what I do. And I thought I'd ask Venger and Job, do you guys do anything special gaming related for Halloween? I mean, I know obviously having kids and such, you've probably had a lot of stuff to do during Halloween anyways, but in terms of your games, do you run special games for Halloween? Do you do something special in your existing games, or do you just not do that kind of stuff? Either one of you go first.
Do you want to go first? Joe?
Go for it.
Go for it, man.
Oh, me? Oh, okay. Yeah, lately my free time is just like almost non-existent. But I have run different things in the past. I guess Call of Cthulhu is probably my go-to horror game. And usually, sometimes it's 50-50 on whether I'll write something like brand new or just do an adventure by the book. And at the moment, I'm kind of between projects and maybe a little bit of writer's block. Maybe I'm just kind of like waiting until the field is fertile again. I've been trying to think like, oh, should I write a horror scenario, or should I do something else for Alpha Blue, or should I keep going on the Gonzo science fantasy Schultz thing? I don't know. I think horror is really hard to write for, so that's challenging, which is both good and bad. If anyone else in the audience has a suggestion for like a horror idea for a scenario, or some sort of theme that's not used enough, definitely share it with all of us, or feel free to email me at some point, because I'm always looking for suggestions. But yeah, right now I'm just kind of like taking some time, I guess. But yeah, the ideas, I have plenty of them, but nothing is striking me to the point where I'm like, oh, I gotta sit down and like start writing it. Yeah.
What about you, Joe?
For me, I actually do Halloween gaming a lot. This year, actually, I think we might do a party at the house. The kids want to do some stuff, but I don't know. We got to figure out what the freaking laws are right now. How many people we're supposed to have or something. Shut up, dog. Good Christ. Anyway, so yeah. So the kids want to do something in any case. So we probably won't game this year on Halloween, but we in the past we have, and usually what I've run in the past would be the one who watches from below, because it's got like a pretty heavy Lovecraft vibe to it, or that's what I was shooting for at least. But anyway, yeah, this year is going to be kind of a little bit bunk as far as gaming goes, unfortunately.
Some comments here from the chat. First of all, I'll giving Benjer an opportunity to do some shilling here. E.S. Taylor asks if Chult is available on Lulu, and if it isn't, then where is it available?
Oh yeah, well, you can still get the hardcovers from me direct. Otherwise, the PDF is on Drive-Thru RPG. But if you order the hardcover, you get the PDF for free. So
okay, you got to go to your site, I guess.
Yeah, find me on my blog, Avengers Old School Gaming blog, and I usually have a link somewhere, or just contact me there. There you go.
Unscripted. Oh, sorry, I thought you were done.
Oh no, I just saw the cover for Chult Fuchsia Malaise, and that hardcover will be out in just a couple of weeks. I hope 2-3 weeks. I'll have those, and they'll start going out to Kickstarter backers first, and then everybody else who orders one after that.
Well, E.S. Taylor just said he's going to order soon, so I guess he just made a sale. Unscripted and Unchained says, try Authentic Medieval with a gonzo twist. I'm guessing that was meant for me. Listen, Unscripted and Unchained, the fact is, I mean, come on, man. Sorry, Joe Biden moment there. Unscripted and Unchained. Listen, the Authentic Medieval genre, let's say, when you base it on medieval folk tales, most medieval folk tales have some very strong elements of horror, and it's mythical horror, it's traditional horror. I think that it's kind of, everybody runs Call of Cthulhu on Halloween, right? And that's okay, fine, but it's Lovecraft stuff is overdone, and there's this wealth of really weird and creepy medieval historical stories and myths and legends that you can tap into. And so actually a lot of my adventures in RPG Pundit Presents that are, they're made by default for Lion and Dragon, but you could use them in just about any OSR game. They're based on, historical sources of legends, myth, and folklore. And almost all of them have this kind of horror or scary element to them. So if you want to find almost any of the ones I've done, they tend to be, if they're not about witches or cults, then they're about like creepy monsters or evil, occult killers or things like that. So any of those you'll find have a lot of stuff that is directly for that type of stuff. It's something that you could run for Halloween very easily. Anyway, anybody got anything else to add about Halloween, or should we move on?
I think we can move on.
All right. Well, a lot of you might be here because I'd been pointing out when I was sharing this link that we have to reveal a secret tonight, a creepy, strange secret that, in fact, Job has been lying to us all this time, and we found out about this recently. He said, and I'm sorry, I've got to call you out on this, Job, but he's told us that he's, living in the Seattle area, and I don't know what he does, if it's a deep fake or a Photoshop with the image, but he certainly looks to me like a Caucasian, except in fact, it turns out he must be a Black person from South Carolina, which I think is, bordering on being a swing state or something like that, because as you can see now on the screen, Job has been contacted by the NAACP about putting in a vote by mail ballot in South Carolina, presumably for for the Democrats. So I think that's really interesting because, you know, this being an election where there's absolutely no voter fraud going on, then clearly Job's a black guy living in South Carolina. This is a totally legitimate tactic and not at all an attempt to you know, rig the election. So
yeah, I've gotten a couple texts actually after this one. I've had my phone number for like over 10 years, so I'm not really sure why they're sending me this stuff, but
Rob, have you ever lived in South Carolina?
No, I lived in North Carolina briefly, but I wasn't registered for anything there. I was like in college and my parents moved there, so I was only there briefly.
Were you at a black college like Joe Biden supposedly was?
Historically black college? No. No.
Oh my God. I'm sorry, I got to interrupt. Now it's all coming together. In the comments, Dracopol points out that you might in fact be Job Biden. Right? So this is, it's time to take off the makeup and reveal yourself as in fact the Democratic candidate here, Joe Biden.
Yeah, well, right before the show, I was doing blow off of Gender Satanis's ass. So
is that who that was?
That's what he said. I don't know, or he said. I don't know.
Pedro Garcia says, "Hey pundit, I'm still a registered Democrat. I wonder how many ballots they're going to send me in the mail."
Enough. You'd have to swing the election.
I mean, this has gotten quite ridiculous now, you know. And I saw an article the other day that said that in Pennsylvania, scrutinizers of mail-in ballots will be allowed to change the ballot if they think that the person who handed in the ballot had the intention of voting for a different candidate than the one they marked. So, you know, that's obviously going to be tested probably up to the Supreme Court.
Oh
but this is the sort of nonsense that is making it really clear that the one thing that the Democrats have planned is to basically steal and cheat their way into the election.
Yeah, if this isn't a landslide victory for Trump, then it could just be like the biggest clusterfuck shit show like of all time, election wise.
That's the danger. The problem is, you know, Trump needs to, if he wants to not have, you don't want to have a contested election, he needs to overwhelmingly win. And I don't think that's a very realistic possibility because, you know, we know that the country is fairly divided right now.
It could be though. I mean, I think there's
I don't think it's going to happen.
That there's a blowout in Trump's favor.
I don't know. I think it's going to be a squeaker. I hope Biden doesn't win just because I don't know. I think no matter what, either way, we're going to have all kinds of rioting and shit. I don't know. It's going to be probably the strangest election ever. I mean, I'm getting text from the NAACP telling me to register to vote and request my ballot in South Carolina. So,
yeah, and I think that's a sign that what's really going to happen here is from the day after the election, probably up to very shortly before the time limit set for confirming the presidency. There's going to be so many court challenges that it's going to make the 2000 election, Bush v. Gore, seem like a cakewalk in comparison. And no matter what happens, there's going to be a significant portion of the population that are going to be convinced that the election was stolen.
Well, the Democrats already think that about 2016, so not all of them, but enough. I don't know. It could get really nasty out there. So I don't know. I hope that doesn't happen, but if it does,
I saw somebody did a video. Maybe it was Tim Pool or something the other day. They were talking about someone did like a Google Trend search. Anybody, if anybody on the chat knows how to do it, just check it out for yourself. but like the terms, how do I change my vote after after that last debate?
That was trending. Yeah, I saw that.
Like, you guys
Oh,
shut
after the
up.
last debate, I think.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know if you guys watched that last
Well,
debate,
that
but
was
I did.
it was
I did.
I did.
it
Yeah.
was I don't know. I thought
That was a
just
big
destroyed Biden, but
I think that was a big reason for the emphasis the Democrats had on mail-in voting, right? They were hoping that a lot of people would vote Democrat at the earlier period of time, when when there was still a lot of issues with COVID and all that sort of stuff, and just the just before people could figure out just how nuts Biden and the Democrats are, right? And so now you have this at the last debate, I think, when Biden admitted he wants to destroy the oil industry, which was easily the biggest coup that Trump landed. And you could tell even Trump was completely shocked. He couldn't believe that he got Biden to say that,
Yeah.
right?
no, even the moderator. Did you hear the moderator right away? She was like, he's like,
Yeah.
are
Why
you
would you do that?
Yeah, why would you do that? That's what she said. Oh my God. Yeah.
Like she wasn't asking it as a question. She was just talking to Biden personally. Like, why would you just fuck your campaign in the ass like on national television during this debate? That's just
Speaking
so
of which,
stupid.
I thought she did a pretty good job. I remember near the beginning, she did like a fact check on him, and I was like, come on, dude, just don't fucking pull that shit. Just let them talk. And I don't know if you guys noticed that too, but near the beginning, like one thing Trump said, she was like turned around and fact checked him, and it's like, that's not your job, lady. Like, don't fucking.
Yeah, but overall, I agree. I think she did the best of. She was far better than the first.
Note that she
moderator. That guy sucked, and the
yeah, well, but note that she didn't fact check Biden when Biden claimed he'd never supported banning fracking, right? And like that's on tape. Everybody knows that he did, right? But she didn't. She didn't fact check him, and she interrupted Trump more than 30 times. She interrupted Biden 3 times.
Well, sure, there was bias. I mean, we all knew that going in, but
but it was less biased than some
of the 3 debates. I mean, if you could call the second one a debate, she was the best. So
she was the least worst.
The least worst. Yeah, exactly.
Because unfortunately, the bipartisan committee on debates is now bipartisan in the sense that half of the people running it are Democrats that support Biden, and the other half are never Trump.
Anti-Trump
who support Biden. Right? So there's nobody there that supports Trump.
Anecdotally, I can say I had a couple friends that reached out to me after that debate, and they're like, shit, I don't want to vote for Biden, like. But they already voted, and they're like, I want to change my vote to Trump just because. What was that guy saying? He was saying the thing that convinced him was when Trump was saying talking to Biden about being a career. I'm not a career kind of politician, and you're you're answering like from as a politician rather than as just like genuine person. And that was the thing that for them that they were like, oh yeah, why the hell did I vote for Biden? Like, I want to change my vote now.
Yeah, that was a good move on Trump's part as well. Throwing off the mask of old friendly Joe Biden to career politician, empty suit. He stands for the man and everything. I
don't know. I mean, I could take or leave by Trump. It's like I'm not wearing a MAGA hat or anything, but I'm going to support him at least for this election. So.
Well, I obviously can't vote. I'm not an American citizen, but.
Hey, there are a lot of people that can't vote that are actually voting in this election, so you might as well.
Yeah, but I'd have to be I'd have to be in the U.S. If I was in the U.S., it'd probably be quite easy for me to vote because you guys have ridiculous, lack of supervision for your voting system. Like,
just go to moveon.org and request a ballot.
Yeah, I know.
We'll send you one.
It's right on the screen, Pundit. Just go to blackvoiceschangelives.org/request-ballot. And you can get a ballot in South Carolina.
There is no other first world country on earth that has that same sort of system, right? Everywhere else, there's more basic check balances. I mean, Uruguay is a third world country, and it has way more checks and balances on making sure that there isn't any voter fraud than the U.S. has, right? So it's crazy the arguments that are made to say, you know, because anyone who's in the U.S. is going to be able to vote the way that they've got it set up, and that's disastrous, really. But
yeah, I think, you know, that's probably going to be that was the biggest thing this year, you know, with just all the new mail-in voting. Like here in Washington, we've had mail-in voting forever, but like we're set up for mail-in voting. You know, for election boards or whatever to suddenly do millions of mail-in ballots, like having never done them before in other states, like California, I think it's probably going to be a disaster.
Yeah, undoubtedly. So a comment from the live chat here, one that I always love bringing up. W. Grell says, Venture Satanis, if I recall, 4 years ago, you were a center-left Clinton supporter. Is your conversion complete? Well, Grell, before I let Venger answer that, I'll point out, not only was he a center-left Clinton supporter, he'd made a bet with me that Trump was going to lose the next election, which he's now, you know, I very gracefully allowed him to annul that bet now that he's seen the light and become a Trump supporter. But as of 4 years ago, I was the sole Trump supporter in the group. I think I certainly know that Grim Jim was, and I don't know how Joe voted in 2016, to be honest. But you know.
I actually voted for Clinton, but I wanted to vote for Trump, but my girlfriend, who's now my wife, said that she would disown me. And I'm in Washington, so it doesn't fucking matter.
And then she reminded you that you're a
It doesn't matter who I vote for. You know what I mean? So I just took the easy road.
And now, what about now? Has your wife changed her mind?
I just don't talk about my wife on this thing.
All right. Sorry. Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, I mean, this is the world we live in, right?
Yeah.
But anyway, they bring up Grim Jim. Holy shit! Have you guys watched some of this? What he's doing now, man? He's like, that dude's gonna be rich. He's a straight up pornographer now.
What?
You guys haven't watched this shit? You haven't watched the game streams he does now?
No.
No, what's
literally
he doing?
people. There's women sucking off other dudes during a game on his
Wait, is this on YouTube?
Game streams. I'm not fucking kidding. I'm not kidding.
Seriously?
I'm serious.
This shows you how little I pay attention to Grim Jim. I'm sorry to say. I mean, I chat with him on Twitter.
I'm sex positive or whatever, but like, I don't know. I mean,
was this recovered on Hunter Biden's laptop?
I don't know how you want to run a game and like how you can run it. And Grim Jim's like just totally, you know, staid and prim and English and proper, and there's just people like naked, like licking each other's genitals.
Well, congratulations, Job. You've just gotten everybody to leave our channel to go watch Grim Jim's videos now. Thank you. Well done.
Yeah, well, you know, we should give him some promos. The dude is probably making bank now. You know, no wonder he ditched you guys.
Yeah, I guess so.
All right. Well, I'm going to announce my OnlyFans page now. You guys are going to launch my sex career.
Yeah. Yes.
The videos of me sniffing coke off of Gender Satanis's well-formed buttocks. Bounce a quarter off those things.
Once again, I'm the only person on Inappropriate Characters that doesn't have to use sex to make money off of gaming.
Because you're so sexy already?
No, just because my games are that good. That's why.
Are they though? Anyway, to answer your question, yes, my conversion has been complete. Every once in a while, actually just the other day, I was thinking about that bet that Pundit and I made. And I am very glad that he let me out of it, because What would we bet? Like $100 or something?
Yeah, $100. That was the bet.
Even though that's not like a huge sum, like George Costanza, that amount would like eat at me. That like I foolishly wasted that, and it was leaving my wallet for pundit. If the bet was still going and I lost.
You know how far $100 goes in Uruguay, man? Like you're like, oh, it's no big deal. This guy could like.
I mean, in the grand scheme of things,
feed an orphanage for 3 years on that, man. I got a lot of privilege, Bender.
Yeah, I'm all about the privilege. I've earned it.
Well, Aaron's here. Aaron's opinion is here.
More or less. I mean, we're not like running through the streets, shooting people and shooting up heroin and like committing mass murder and just robbing people.
Wait, that's your example of privilege? Is that what you're saying?
A little bit of privilege. I mean, we live in a free society.
I've been waiting for murder privilege, man. That sounds pretty good.
Bringing the subject back to the election and specifically to the debate, I think that Trump actually had two major coups in that debate. The first was, as I mentioned, getting Biden to admit that he wants to not just he didn't actually get Biden to admit that he's banning fracking, but everybody knows he is. But then he basically skipped over that by admitting that he wants to destroy the entire oil industry, not just fracking. But the second one, and the one that I think less people are talking about, is that Trump made it everybody remember, especially everybody who, like Job, is a black voter from South Carolina, remember that Joe Biden was the architect of the 1994, I think it was, crime bill that put thousands and thousands of young black men in jail for very minor possession charges. And I don't know if you've seen, but a recent poll has indicated that in the last few days since the debate, Trump's approval rating with black men has gone up to like 46%.
Yeah, I saw
and
that.
This is a very, very big deal because
it only like double digits, I guess, to swing some states, right?
Well, yeah, the balance of the vote, the Democrat vote, as much as people say the Republican vote depends on the white voter, the Democrat vote is actually much more dependent on this narrow margin of non-white votes in certain key areas, right? And so blacks and Latinos. And the fact that Trump has been gaining very steadily with blacks and Latinos is very important because it doesn't matter. It's not something that is applicable everywhere, but it's applicable in certain key areas, right? And unlike Democrats, I recognize that black voters come in different types, and part of the difference in that is regional. So it doesn't really matter because even if he got a shift in the black vote in, say, New York or California, that's not going to change much of anything. But outside of those areas, if he gets an important shift in black voters in, say, Georgia, for example, or most of the southern states, southern black people who tend to be more religious, and this is part of why Trump has been also doing a lot of campaigning with black churches, Christian black churches that are socially conservative. And so between that and his publicizing what he's done for the black voters and what Biden has been responsible for in terms of the destruction of the lives of a whole bunch of, black men who, as he pointed out, are people's sons and people's fathers, and the damage that does to the social weave, the social fabric of the Black American population. If they shift half of that, if Trump gets 20% of the black vote in this election in the important areas, then Trump will win the election hands down, especially when you consider that he's also looking like he's going to get 35 to 40% of the Latino vote, right? The entire difference in Florida will depend on the Latino vote. And the Latino vote in Florida is more conservative leaning than anywhere else because it's full of exiles from not just Cuba, but also now Venezuela and other Latin American countries that have that have lived under socialism and know exactly what it is, and have no interest in the type of socialism that someone like Alejandro Ocasio-Cortez is trying to promote, right? So I think that was
Florida is fucking crazy.
As the oil thing. Sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
And don't forget that Florida is fucking crazy. Like
it is,
some crazy like alligator meth lab, like people jumping out of planes with chainsaws and lasers. If that news story appears anywhere, there's like a 4 in 6 chance that it's from Florida.
Yeah, I lived a long time in Florida, so that's any indication of what Florida's like.
None at all, actually, but
and I can second. I mean, I know so many people, Cuban Americans and just other Hispanic people in Florida. They're pretty conservative, honestly, like their politics.
And the Jews,
there's also,
you would think that the Jews would support Trump because he's done such great things for Israel and the Middle East. And I mean,
why are you always trying to bring the Jews into this
Jewish
gender? Come on.
Grandson. What?
I said, why are you always trying to bring the Jews into this gender?
Come on, man.
Hey, I watch Ben Shapiro every weekday. And I love him.
All right, we should probably move on.
I love Jews.
Okay.
I love Jews. I love blacks. I love Hispanics.
All right, we've had enough of genders, fetishes for one.
Let me comment for a second in a slightly more intelligent way on what Benjer said here, which is the Jewish vote in the United States has traditionally been Democrat, right? But for example, the Jewish vote in the UK was traditionally Labour and Liberal Democrat for a very long time. And that changed in the last election in the UK. And the reason it changed wasn't because suddenly all of these Jewish people in the UK loved Boris Johnson. It was because the Labour Party has been steadily becoming more and more anti-Semitic over the years, right? The left is becoming much more anti-Semitic as time goes by, that they mask as being anti-Israel and pro-Islam, but it's becoming more and more obviously a generalized type of anti-Semitism. And so in the last election, Jewish voters in the UK abandoned Labour almost completely, and that contributed to the victory of the Conservative Party in Britain. Now, the US is not yet, the Democratic Party is not yet at that same level, but they have the exact same sentiment and the exact same trend, right? So right now, I suspect that a lot of traditionally liberal Jewish voters are going to continue to vote Democrat, but I think that if you wait until the next election, that's probably going to change, because I doubt the Democrats are going to, no matter what happens. I mean, obviously if they win, but even if they lose, I don't think they're going to stop trending towards this more radical kind of social justice warrior style politics. And that's going to be leading them towards the same kind of anti-Semitic bile that the Labour Party has now pushed in the UK. So that vote is going to change eventually. It might not change this election. I mean, there's a minority of Jews in the United States that do support the Republican Party, obviously, but those tend to be, it's very simple. The line tends to break down on the line of how connected a Jewish voter is to Israel, right? So if you're pro-Israel in a stronger sense, if you're you got family there, you've got a connection to it that's more than just symbolic, then, considering everything Donald Trump has done for Israel and the fact that, the Democrats were supporting Iran and, they sent them billions of dollars, which were used to help bomb Israel. There's already a lot of Jewish voters, the ones that are closer to Israel, that are going to have more support for the Republicans than for the Democrats. But there's a lot of Democrats in the U.S. that don't have those type of ties yet, but it's going to happen eventually.
I think
we should move on.
Just want to interject quick. Chad Stevens in the chat said, "You've just been ripping off Alpha Blue from Florida news stories, haven't you?" Yes, of course that
true.
Is.
Yeah.
Wasn't that obvious?
I
I mentioned the Florida news, and yeah, it's out. Secret's out now.
What you know? I actually lost a Jewish friend this last week that I've had for like 20 plus years, because he was going on and he kept sending me stuff about how corrupt Trump was and blah blah blah. And I sent him an article about this Hunter Biden stuff, and he like fires. I was just being civil or whatever. We've talked about lots of things over the years, and he fires back with this article that was like, Trump and Giuliani have been, revealed by the FBI or NSA to be, susceptible to foreign influence or something. And I was like, just use your brain and read this article. Like, this is saying nothing. This is unsourced people or ex spooks that are, saying this shit. And one of them in the article was like Eric Carlisle or Glenn Carlisle or something, who was, way on board with this Russia shit. So I was like, just use your fucking brain, man. Like, this stuff is bullshit. And he fires back at me, and he was like, white supremacy is a huge problem, and I'm gonna be, people want to end me and all this stuff. And then he was like, you are so privileged to be able to say that white supremacy isn't really a huge problem in this country and all this other stuff. And I was just like, what planet are you on? I mean,
well, he's right. There are people that want to end him. Their names are Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar. Like, those are the people that
yeah.
If you want to look for anti-Semites in American politics, there you are.
Yeah. So I don't know. I just don't get it. And then he was like, you're dead to me and all this stuff. I was like, okay, all right, bye.
Yeah, bye.
Nice knowing you. I was open to reading anything he sent me, and I thought he was open to reading anything I sent him, so.
There's this girl on Twitter that, it was weird because she had something, she posted some picture or meme or something like that I liked. And so I liked it, and then I followed her, and then she followed me almost at the exact same time. And then like an hour later, she puts me on blast and just tweets out like a picture of me and several things that I said, basically.
Oh shit, I saw that one.
Like Trump, like that I like Trump, or that like not every COVID related death means that they died from COVID, things like that. And she's like, well, that shows me not to follow anybody that I just see one tweet from them or something. And so she like tried to call me out and then like unfollow me. And I'm like, whatever, bye. I'm following you. So yeah.
To sum up, most of my games are based on actual sources of medieval myth and legend. Most of Benjer's products are based on articles he's read about Florida in the National Enquirer.
And porn.
So, Joe, what's the next topic that we had lined
okay,
up
well,
here?
Yeah, we should move on. I mean, this is interesting, but it's not really gamer adjacent. We should just do our shilling real quick. So let's just fire through this. Go ahead and fund it and give us your shill for the night.
All right. Well, as always, if you guys want to support me, the best way to do that is to pick up my games. And besides, my big products, Lion and Dragon, Dark Albion, Arrows of Indra, you can pick all those up on DTRPG. Some of them you can also get on Lulu and on Amazon. I have my RPG Pundit Presents series. As you can see on the screen, there's the RPG Pundit Presents number 100, Star Adventure, which is a full space opera RPG that you can buy in print. It's the only RPG Pundit Presents that's available in print. All the others are just PDF. And it's just $9.99. So be sure to check that out, and be sure to check out. We continue to make new issues of our RPG Pundit Presents. Number 103 is the latest one, which is the Medieval Authentic City Guide to Exeter, an entire medieval city, all the details about it, circa the 15th century, with all of the folk tales and legends built in to provide the fantasy element to the place. You can use it as part of your Lion and Dragon game, or you can, morph it into a city in your own medieval authentic or medieval-ish campaign. Aside from that, keep your eyes open, guys, for the upcoming World of the Last Sun book. I'm not sure when it's coming out. Might not come out until early next year, but it might come out earlier. We're actually really, I think right now we're ahead of schedule. I've just seen the images of what the cover is going to look like. And anyways, World of the Last Sun is the complete world guide to my Gonzo Fantasy DCC campaign, which is going to be set up to be usable with any OSR system, any D&D based system. And it's full of cool stuff that you can play in the world itself or incorporate into your own weird fantasy or Gonzo Fantasy type campaigns. So
is that going to be a longer work?
Yeah, it's going to be, I don't know, it's going to be probably around 265 pages. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, that's big.
All right.
So
Gender, hit it.
Be sure to take a look at that and check out all my other issues of RPG Pundit Presents. You're bound to find something you like, and most of them cost, $5 or less.
All right, your shill screen is up, Venger.
Yes, many people in the chat have noticed Job misvengering me tonight on the stream. So yeah,
deal with it, Snowflake.
Expect to hear from my lawyers, my Twitter lawyers.
You'll have to contact the Trust and Safety Council,
who may or may not be half Asian. I don't want to blow my load right there with.
Get on with it, Snowflake, before you melt.
I think that's enough from Venger. He's already shilled these products tonight. What about you?
I always have more shilling in me, though.
All right, I'm going to do my shill. I'm working on Brittle Blades. And, God, come on. There we go, autofocus. Yeah, Brittle Blades, I'm still working on it. It's happening. It's slow, but it's happening.
It's not happening.
So it is I don't know. I call it grimdark. I don't know. It's a role-playing game that will get you in trouble with your wife.
That's a great sales pitch.
Well, thank you.
I've already enough trouble with my wife. I don't need extra gaming to do that.
All right.
Anyway, back to me. So I finally got all the stuff with the printing done. So they have the files at the printer in Canada at Friesen's, and should only be like maybe 3 weeks before it's printed and shipped out to me. And if you've seen the PDF, you know how awesome it is. It is truly awesome. I think it's just as good, if not better, than Chalt. And definitely buy it. Also review it, because in Zeitgeist, Thylo was the last person to review Chalt, and that was like a year ago on Drive-Thru RPG I'm talking about. And only 3 people have reviewed Chalt Fuchsia Malaise. So I'm looking for more reviews there too. People aren't that outspoken about my stuff online. Maybe it's because of my reputation, or they think that other people aren't going to be as into Gonzo stuff as they are. But I encourage everybody to mention it online, social media, wherever, because it's awesome and it needs more publicity. I can only do so much, like coming out as a tentacled green alien humanoid. You have to do the rest.
You see your tentacles?
What's that?
Can we see your tentacles?
No, this isn't Grim Jim's channel. No showing of tentacles here.
Oh, damn it.
On the chat, George.
I just got my suckers buffed too. Shoot.
So guys, on the chat, George Whittlesbach, Lorraine McClary, Hoopy asks a vital and perennial question: when are you going to kill the Catboy? George, you have to check out the Bill the Elf YouTube channel. He's one of my players in my DCC campaign. The Catboy has not been the Catboy for quite some time. He's the Boy now, because they used a clerical miracle to remove the abomination within him. So he's no longer a furry. Now he's just a guy, but he is still very much alive. The party is currently making their way. They're making their way through the Temple of the Duck, and Boy is still kicking. I don't know. He's very tough to kill. He's been very cautious lately. So yeah, if you want to check out my campaign, go to Bill the Elf's channel, and there's the audio of our gaming. It's not one of these fancy, fake D&D live streams or something like that that's been all made up. Nobody's playing to the camera. It's just, which means it's not going to be all that interesting unless you really want to see us having a good time. But there you are. All right, what's the next topic, Joe?
Yeah, we should hop on to the next topic before we lose Avenger. Okay.
Yeah, I still got 13 minutes.
Oh shit. Okay, we better make this quick. So I don't know if everyone's heard about this, but Len Lakofka died pretty recently, days ago. So if you're familiar with The Secret of Bone Hill, The Assassin's Knot. He wrote our
Deep
article, column. There we go. A column in Dragon magazine for years and years. So he passed away, which is pretty unfortunate.
Well, he was like 80 something, right?
Yeah, I think so. I mean,
73, I think.
There you go.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, I sent you guys this article. I was hoping you just comment on. I've seen this over and over. He wrote this article actually 44 years ago this month for Dragon Magazine #3 called "Notes on Women and Magic." So some of the people in the chat might be familiar with it because it gets dredged up over and over by the likes of Cecilia D'Anastasio or Stasio. And a bunch of other people always talking about, like this is proof that Dungeons and Dragons from its inception was, misogynistic, probably racist and phobic as well.
But girls could seduce men. I mean, maybe women too. But
yeah, so I sent everybody the 4 pages of notes on women and magic. So what were your guys' thoughts on it? Like, why? I don't know. I mean, can you say, do you think it is misogynistic?
Absolutely not, from my perspective. I think girls and women can be treated differently from men, but that doesn't mean that it's bad or that women are feared or hated or abused. Women have generally different skill sets and different pros and cons than men do. Generally speaking, not everybody's the same, obviously. But there are trade-offs. If you're playing a female fighter, I could see having less strength, but more, I don't know, maybe more stealth or the ability to seduce other men or take advantage of them. And that could go in a lot of different directions. I mean, you could kind of like really play it up in a, campy, sleazy kind of way, like, Alpha Blue, but fantasy or something. Or you could just do it more realistic, like, maybe not the extra heavy, like two-handed sword. Because let's face it, most women, especially back then when there wasn't like weightlifting, couldn't even pick up a sword like that, much less wield it around, like lopping people's heads off. So it's just part of the Gygaxian realism. And for me, it makes total sense. It's not misogynistic at all. But that's just my take.
Well, look, the first thing I'm going to comment here is that I think you missed, Joe, one of the key claims to fame that Len Lakofka had, which was in the original Greyhawk campaign, he played Leomund, the wizard. And so anybody who's ever had Leomund's tiny hut as a spell, that was thanks to him.
Yeah, I should have called it out. If you look at the screen, it's the first line. It says "Rip Leomund." But yeah, I probably should explain that for people who aren't fucking lore nerds like us.
That's right. Because I don't think I've laid any of the 3 modules you have on the screen there. But I'm familiar with Leomund, right?
Right. Yeah.
Anyway, I read the article. I never read it before. It's from Dragon number 3, which is very, very early in TSR history, basically. And you can tell because the stats for the article, I mean, they're from the original D&D, right? From old
Yeah,
D&D.
yeah, they're referencing chainmail and stuff.
Yeah, it was basically saying, yeah, this is how you do it with chainmail rules, right? I think it's fair to point out that even at that time, there was criticism of that article, right? This isn't something that retroactively has been applied to say, oh, this was, there were people that thought it was sexist even back then. Of course, there were a lot of people also thought, well, that it was accurate back then in terms of what, similar to what Venture just said. The main differences, because I'm guessing a lot of our viewers might not have actually read that article. The main differences were that he reduced the strength roll from 3d6 to I think it was a d8 plus a d6 or something like that, and that he replaced charisma with beauty, and then he altered female wizards to cast a number of spells, most of which did not notably end up in AD&D, because a lot of AD&D spells were spells that weren't in the original box set, but that had been at some point or another published in the Dragon. But most of the ones he put on there never got into the AD&D player's handbook, that were spells that were supposedly, women's spells like seduction and, to alter their appearance and stuff like that. I think there was, probably an element in it where if you look at what he was doing from a 70s nerd perspective, he was still treating D&D a lot like a war game. And so he was arguing, that statistically an average woman would have less strength than an average man, which, my argument to that is always that player characters aren't meant to really represent broad general population. They're meant to represent people who are, heroes and theoretically can be whatever, right? In terms of an honest appraisal of it from the perspective of a general 70s opinion, I think it's pretty clear that he was maybe trying to portray it in the context of fantasy, appealing to the medieval image of the the stories of from the medieval tradition of the Arthurian stories of witches that enchant men and things like that, right? I don't think that's a tremendously useful way to go about things, but it's not the way I did it in Lion and Dragon, where I do have stuff like enchantment magic, but I don't make it specific to women. And I think that if you want to take a negative perspective of it, well, he was sort of saying, this is what girls should do in a D&D campaign. And I don't know if that last one is really a fair judgment or not, but I can see how some people were offended by it at the time, and obviously why now people could be offended of it in retrospect. And the thing that's missing there is that you've got these SJW types that are trying to use that as evidence of the inherent sexism of the game, but that's not an evidence of the inherent sexism of the game. That was never in the original D&D product, and those ideas weren't transplanted into the later editions of D&D, right? Sure. It means that even Gary Gygax looked at that and said, "Yeah, that doesn't convince me," right? Because if it had convinced him, he would have used it, like he used a ton of other stuff that first appeared in the Dragon and then ended up in the AD&D rules.
Sure. So, or it could be that there weren't any women playing, so he didn't feel like he had to pander to them or make special rules for them. You know what I mean?
Well, that's not true, though, because we know that there were women playing. We know that, from records of...
Yeah, we know there's women playing for the Secrets of Blackmoor, for one, but, I mean, it's also, proportionality, right?
Right. it wasn't this like huge block.
I mean, it's like how many people,
Angry,
how much time do you spend?
gamers,
You know, it's like why don't I have furry rules and brutal blades? Like, I mean, if you can only write, I would think you want to write rules for like the largest common denominator, and then you assume that like the DM can handle edge case type of stuff.
Yeah, well,
and edge cases like women.
Look, it's just I get what you're saying there, right? But I think the point is that this is an attempt at an erasure of something that the fact is there were a lot of women playing D&D at the time, and most women didn't have any problem with D&D as it was written. Some of them might have had a problem with these suggestions that Len had put forward, but those suggestions never ended up being a part of D&D. And I mean, part of the thing that we're seeing now, for example, is the SJWs have just managed to ban a product that was made by a woman. You know, well, not banned, but they've essentially killed any further development of that product, which is Dragonlance, which I think is going to be our next product. And it was co-written by Margaret Weiss, who's a woman. And Dragonlance was immensely popular, especially with women gamers in the 1980s. You know.
Oh, I actually, while I was researching this too, I found someone had Grognardia had interviewed Len Lakofka and asked him about Notes on Women of Magic, actually. And there's a bunch of kind of, I don't know. I guess I'll just use the term SJW kind of articles, but they never like reached out to him and tried to talk to him. So, and in Grognardia, he said. So it's interesting to mention Notes on Magic and Women, since it frequently gets mentioned in discussions in the early days of the hobby. Lots of gamers nowadays can't fathom why such an article was written or published, given how much things have changed since the 70s. Can you provide a little background for the article? So Len Lakofka said, there just wasn't any real mention of women as player characters. The vast majority of players were males, and none of them wanted a female character, especially when it came to the roleplay part of it. Since it was a vague area, I decided to give it some attention. No more complicated than that. I did have players who were willing to step up and play a female character. I believe Dave Rogan played the magic user Andrella. One of the Nistalists played her as well. There was a female druid and a cleric, but no one tried either the thief or the fighter. So, I don't know. I mean, there's that. Part of when I read it, I was like, okay, here's a guy who was like, I'm gonna, if somebody wants to play a character like this, I'm gonna try to like stat up some rules, I mean, a lot of the kind of postmodern critique of D&D, right, is that like it's just fighting, So why not have some kind of rules for, love or romance, kind of in there as well. I mean, it's a part of life as a human being,
Well, I think love and romance is something that you role play in the game. You don't need stats for that.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, how do you? I guess you could just role play seduction, but I don't know. To me, when I read it, I was just like, okay, like if somebody at my game table was like going in that direction, I might try to come up with some rules or some kind of stuff for them. In my, GMing career, I can't think of a single guy who's ever kind of brought in romance or seduction into it. I can think of plenty of women who've, kind of wants to ship different characters and stuff like that. But guys, I think, just aren't really at the gaming table, at least.
Sorry, they're not interested in role-playing
like
romance?
Seducing, romance and like sex at the table. I mean, most people just want to kill shit and steal stuff and solve mysteries.
I don't know if that's strictly speaking true. In long-term campaigns, it's certainly been my experience. Of course, most of my games are mixed men and women, right? But it's been my experience that if you're doing a role-play heavy campaign, especially if it goes on for a few years, the players want their characters to end up having all sorts of relationships, So,
Oh, okay. The longest campaign I've run is about 2 years. So,
yeah. Well, the longest one I've run was about 10, but in any case, I mean, they'll role play, romance, getting married, having families, all that sort of thing. Sometimes, I mean, it depends on the player, and on what type of campaign it is, right? But especially if you're having campaigns that are meant to be about, like sort of Game of Thrones sort of stuff, or like, I ran a Legion of Superheroes campaign where they're all, teenage superheroes in the future. And if you've ever read the Legion comics, there are all kinds of romances going on between the different Legionnaires. So that's part of the genre, right? And you're emulating the genre. Obviously, if you're playing a game of just going through a dungeon and killing stuff, then you're not going to be having a lot of romance in that, right? But if you're doing other stuff, then yes.
Vesuvius in the chat said, I'd roleplay as a woman and demand 75% reduced prices due to unequal loot distribution.
Anyway, I don't know. I just thought I'd bring up that article because
yeah, it's interesting.
In Brutal Blades, I have different stats for males and females of every single race. So that was part of why my side of the bed was very cold the last few nights, because my wife is a really good writer and she edits my stuff, and
yeah,
she was not too thrilled, but she's gonna read it again. I think she's reading too much into it, I think.
Probably. Okay.
I don't know. I haven't seen your book, so I can't comment on that.
We'll do like a round table, like airing out of Brutal Blades once it's finished.
Yeah, undoubtedly.
We'll all critique it like live on the stream.
When you send us both review copies, we'll tell you what's wrong with it.
I'm trying to get the playtest version out before GaryCon next year, so it goes.
Cool.
All right, you guys ready to move on to the last topic?
Yes,
sure.
I gotta go now.
Oh,
usual routine. So good show, guys. Thanks everybody for watching, and see you next month.
Later, Gender.
Later.
Save that butt.
Remember, guys, if you want Venger to get to show up on the show until the end of the show, then be sure to support us on Patreon. Your Patreon bucks will allow him to stay up.
Make my bed, Venger. Venger's making my bed right now. Chopping up my Coke.
So all right, our next topic is about the Dragonlance.
Our last topic was this Dragonlance.
Yeah. Well, I've already made a video about this, which has been fairly well watched. And in that video, I point out the basic story of how it's, Dragonlance had the creators of Dragonlance, Margaret Weiss and Tracy Hickman, had made a contract with Wizards of the Coast, which would allow them to publish, not through Wizards, but through, I think it was Random House, a new trilogy of Dragonlance novels.
Well, whatever.
Yeah, Penguin Random House. They're the same company.
Oh, they are, okay.
Yeah, and so it was to restart that, and to restart Dragonlance basically, and everything was going really well until about a year ago when the story editors at Wizards of the Coast started demanding that Weiss and Hickman change tons of their story to be more, in following with current SJW ideology. And the thing is, Weiss and Hickman did it. They changed everything according to the lawsuit that they filed. They complied with every recommendation, right? And I think it's very important to note that in the way that, how I understand it, the way that this contract worked, it wasn't costing Wizards anything, right? Like, because it wasn't Wizards that was publishing these books. Wizards might afterwards decide to publish D&D products with Dragonlance in it, but the people who were doing all of this were Random House on one hand and Weiss and Hickman on the other. So all Wizards had to do is sit back and make free money from their intellectual property. But instead, they unilaterally told Weiss and Hickman that they were going to kill the deal. They couldn't actually break their contract, but what they did is basically broke their contract by any other name, because they said from now on, you part of the contract is we have to approve of all of anything that before it gets published, and we're not going to approve of anything, no matter what you do. So this was the deal breaker. And now Weiss and Hickman are suing Wizards of the Coast for, I think, about $10 million.
Yeah. Did you ever read any of the Dragonlance novels, or?
Well, yeah, I did. Back when they came out, I read the first trilogy, and I read one or two other books. I mean, to me, they're pretty third-rate fantasy. I know I had on my video, I said that, and I had a bunch of Dragonlance fans go, "Oh, how dare you, sir!"
I tried to read them, man. I was just like, "This is not for me."
But they were immensely popular. They were the first,
right? Yeah, they were like New York Times bestsellers, right?
Yeah, hugely successful before there was ever a Forgotten Realms novel, right? So right, they were what made D&D into a cross-media product, right? Like, and as I pointed out, they were immensely successful with female readers. So it's very funny now that this is being killed, right? Did you have anything you wanted to say about this topic?
Other than the books kind of suck, not to my taste, not too much. I mean, you kind of already covered all the topics. I mean, I think it's ridiculous that you just kind of go back and make all these like morality judgments about the the world or whatever with Dragonlance. I mean, I feel sad for people who are part of that fandom and they want to get those new books that they're I mean, probably they're never going to ever see them.
Very unlikely.
Yeah, so that kind of sucks, and especially for these people who've like this has been their whole life. For Hickman and Weiss, like this is their life's work, and for someone to just turn around and like take a fucking steaming shit on their life's work and say like, oh yeah, everything you wrote is misogynistic, racist, homophobic, transphobic. This is a huge problem, and in the abstract, a lot of times when people kind of make these kind of claims about things, you're like, okay, well, I'm not that or whatever. But like in this case, Wizards of the Coast literally like holds the IP and can control it, and they're telling, through their actions, they're telling everybody that these two authors are terrible people, basically, and so I think that's really uncool. But a lot of stuff Wizards does is uncool, so I don't know.
Well, I'm going to point out a few things that happened. I mean, I'll tell everybody watching to check out my latest video on my channel, where I give the whole detail about everything that went on and my opinions on it. And apparently, I've had some people say that it was a pretty good rant. But I'll bring up a few things I've heard since then. First of all, on this live chat before we went live, there were some people saying that oh well, it'll be good if Wizards of the Coast goes broke because of this, if they go bankrupt. Right now, Wizards of the Coast is never going to go bankrupt technically because they're owned by Hasbro, which is one of the biggest corporations in the world, right? There's a good chance Wizards of the Coast will have to settle with Weiss and Hickman, and Weiss and Hickman will make some great money with it. But somebody else also suggested, oh well, they'll probably end up having to give Dragonlance to them. That's very unlikely. Hasbro never gives up its intellectual property, and Weiss and Hickman have no claim because of the type of contract that they undoubtedly made. They don't get to own it automatically, and Hasbro just won't give it away because it's and this is standard corporate behavior for intellectual property, right? You don't give away intellectual property that you own, right? So they're not going to do that. Same with they're not going to sell Wizards or something like that. If Wizards of the Coast ends up being unprofitable for them, they'll shut it down, and they might license D&D, for example, to somebody else.
Right? Yeah, of course.
but they're not going to
let it
sell
go.
D&D or give away D&D as an IP. You know, you do not give away your IP if you're a big corporation.
Sure.
So it's just not going to happen. Anyway, the other thing that I heard a lot on my YouTube channel was certain people, you know, because apparently it must have really done the rounds. It's had like, you know, well over 4,500 views, and it's gotten some people in there who are from the other side, let's say, and a lot of them commented, well, you don't know that it was because of SJW stuff, right? I mean, there's literally no other theory offered here, and it's very clear from the subtext of what Weiss and Hickman are saying that they believe that was the reason, and there doesn't seem to be any other good reason why Wizards wouldn't do this. Weiss and Hickman were trying to comply with all the kind of SJW demands, and Wizards canceled it anyways because the SJWs their goal wasn't to change, not with Weiss and Hickman writing it. They wanted Dragonlance to just disappear because it's part of their agenda for it to disappear, right? Dragonlance is problematic for them in the sense they want to say, which is that they think it's got a lot of politically incorrect stuff in it. The authors are Mormons and stuff like that, right? But it's also problematic for them in the sense that Margaret Weiss is a problem for them because it proves the lie of this idea that there were no women in gaming until the SJW showed up to bring them into the game, right? Like that.
Right. Yeah.
Her very existence is damaging to their narrative, so they want her to disappear. But besides that, there were some people saying, no SJW is saying that Dragonlance should disappear. I mean, I've got on my MeWe profile, if you're on MeWe and you take a look at my posts, some recent posts here, where Jessica Price, formerly of Pathfinder, famous D&D SJW.
Yeah, formerly of ArenaNet, formerly of everything.
That's right. She keeps getting fired because she's even unbearable to anyone that's a fellow traveler. Jessica Price did a tweet where she said, honestly, Dragonlance is thoroughly awful. And if there are any new novels, they should be written by native authors or not at all. So there you go. What? That was Jessica Price pointing out how that she wanted, Dragonlance to either not be written by evil white Mormons or for it just not to exist, right? And then you had Shreyas, another well-known SJW, saying, "Oh, it's so joyful that Wizards of the Coast finally got in their heads that Dragonlance is racist and awful, and Weiss and Hickman are mad about it, right?" And Tracy Hurley agrees with it, So these are, major D&D SJWs who have long campaigns for the destruction of D&D as we know it, cheering over the corpse of Dragonlance.
Yeah. All right. I think maybe we've flogged this topic to death. Probably most people listen to your coverage already as well. So,
if you haven't, be sure to check it out.
Yeah, it was a good one.
Judd Goswick says, "What were the supposed bad elements of Dragonlance? I doubt the Scolds care about how bad Kender players are." Well, actually, Judd, if you look at the stuff that they post on Twitter and also on the N World and RPGNet topics about this, one of their issues is about how certain races are portrayed as primitive or infantile, namely Kenders and Gully Dwarves, I think. Another one is that there's clearly good and evil races, and that's wrong and bad, right? And it really, one of the big ones, which I think was referred to in the post that Jessica Price did, is how you have these characters, Goldmoon and Riverwind, which are basically sort of natives. And this is part of the kind of, there's a Mormon element, a Mormon story element to the account of how the gods come back to Krynn, right? Because they find on a plate of platinum the true invocations of the good gods, and then they bring the good gods back. And this is all stuff out of the Book of Mormon, right? In the Book of Mormon, Jesus came and preached in the Americas, and then later Joseph Smith ended up finding a plate of gold which had the secrets for receiving the Latter-day Saints religion from God, right? So they hate the Mormonism in Dragonlance, and they also hate the element of these Native American type characters being written by white people, right? So all of those are the things that they find problematic with it.
Yeah, I mean, but we're all guessing too, right? I mean, it's just fill in the blanks from what's in the complaint, legal complaint.
Yeah, we are. But again, there's what other reason would there be, right? Like, I mean, this is Wizards. Yeah. This is a contract that literally gave Wizards free money. They didn't have to do anything. They just picked up the royalties for it, right?
Yeah.
And so if Wizards didn't want to publish Dragonlance products themselves, that'd be one thing. But as far as I understand it, that wasn't something that they were required to do as per the contract, right?
Right.
So it can't be, oh, we're too busy to do this, or we don't want to fulfill our part of the bargain. Their part of the bargain is just to say, yeah, go ahead, publish this and give us money, you know. I haven't heard anyone give a credible other explanation for this, for why they would cancel this.
Yeah, me either. I mean, it fits the MO of, you know, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Well, we were talking earlier about, you know, people supporting Trump or Biden or whatever. It's just like everything it's been shook up, and what used to be, you know, I mean, you were like a punk rocker, right? It was like,
yeah,
in 90s, 2000, 80s or whatever. It was like, you know, there's people who were the authoritarian, you know, moral majority authoritarians. They were like trying to dictate what you could listen to, or you know, the music you could listen to, et cetera, or just like what was acceptable to be shown on TV or whatnot. Yeah. But like that doesn't mean anything anymore. You know what I mean? It used to be like, I can't be a Republican because like they don't like support gay marriage, or like they don't, you know, they think gay people are like evil or some shit, or that, you know, transgender people like shouldn't be, you know, allowed to like live their lives or something. But like the culture's moved on. Like nobody believes that anymore, I don't think, like on either side of the aisle, really, other than like fringe people. So it's like, it makes it so much harder for people to like, what box do I fit in anymore, you know?
Yeah, it's well, but it's very clear that the only people nowadays that are trying to ban art or games or music are the SJW crowd, right?
Right, yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of where I rested finally, and I was just like, well, what I am at essentially is like, I'm an anti-authoritarian. So
that's right.
And anyone who tells me what to do can suck my dick. Fuck off.
Yeah, there's no question that if you're an anti-authoritarian today, you're not going to be taking the side of the modern left, because the modern left is a totalitarian movement. And that's why you have all these former punks and these, well, not former, these old punks and these old rappers
Johnny Rotten,
that are now shifting over to the other side, right? You know, Johnny Rotten and Morrissey are now on the side of the Brexiteers, and 50 Cent is on the side of Trump, you know?
Right, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I almost want to just get a MAGA t-shirt or a hat just to fucking piss off everybody that I live near.
Well, where you are, that's a dangerous thing to do.
It is, actually. Yeah,
down
like,
in
they'll
South
fuck
Carolina,
my car up.
They'll
Probably attack me, but you know, I'm a big guy, so I just don't want them to spit in my food. That shit's gross.
Yeah, also, yeah, the hysteria that side has is really, really shocking. But
well, all right, man. I think we should wrap this up. What do you think?
All right.
You got any more thoughts?
Well, no, I mean, I think that our main topics have pretty much been covered. I don't see any other comments here from the peanut gallery. Has anyone said anything about Dragonlance? Dracopol says, the message to gamers is SJWs will only destroy stuff. They will not create anything good to replace what they call problematic. Yeah, very good point. Chad said, I read the original Dragonlance trilogies. Anything Tracy Hickman and Waste didn't write was subpar. Well, you know, if I'm being really honest, you know, the original Dragonlance trilogy was not spectacular either. It was like a third-rate Lord of the Rings formulaic stuff. But you know, I know that I tend to have a pretty high. I put a pretty high value on my on my reading, so I don't have the view of the majority of gamer nerds who you know, will eat up mass pop media. But fair enough. I get your point. I'm pretty sure that he's right, that the later Dragonlance novels were probably just really stupid, because Dragonlance was one of these series that was really made to tell that one story, and that was one of the reasons I didn't like it too much as a setting. It's because unlike Greyhawk or the Realms, which grew up in an organic way, Dragonlance was created to tell that story of the War of the Lance, right? And it makes it a little less open to interesting gaming.
Yeah, I know. You know, I never got any of those Dragonlance modules, but I know that was a frequent criticism of them, and it was like, you know, it's or like, you know, the Indiana Jones game stuff. You know, I mean, it's like, you're writing something for a story or a novel or a movie, you know, if the material, the adventure material that you're writing is like, you know, everyone wants to be Indiana Jones or Tannis, you know, and
they were the beginning of the railroady, story-driven adventure, you know, where players were there to see the story being told, you know. Anyway, I guess that's it for tonight.
So
our next show is going to be, today's the 25th, right?
Yeah, 25th.
So our next show is going to be on the 22nd of November, probably.
Okay, good.
So mark that date on your calendar, everyone. Keep that evening free. It'll probably be again at 7:30 Central. Some of you, I think, will probably have to pay attention to the daylight savings, but yeah, be sure to check us out that time. And meanwhile, be sure to keep your eye open on the RPG Pundit channel and everywhere else that you know. Job, you don't have Job's not on the screen right now, but you don't you don't have a specific channel besides this one, right?
No, I got 5 kids, man. I'm like a gender satanist, but worse.
Venger has a channel too, but I think he only gets like 50 views a video. So yeah, just come watch my channel, guys.
Yeah, I just watch RPG Pundits.
There you go.
That's what I do.
Right, well,
or watch Aaron. Aaron's got some good stuff too. Aaron the Pedantic, one of our former
check
guys.
out Aaron the Pedantic stuff. That's right.
You like this
next
kind of
time,
content,
maybe we'll have another guest star. We're not sure yet, but let us know in the comments if there's a guest star you'd like to see.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and be sure to pick up our stuff, right? Support it if you want to help Inappropriate Characters as a show. Support us on Patreon. If you want to help us individually, pick up our products. Check out all my RPG Pundit Presents series and my published books. And well, Job hasn't got his book out yet, but when it does, keep an eye open for it. The cover looks quite impressive. I'll say that much.
Oh yeah, that's just the playtest cover. I'm gonna get.
Yeah, it's not the final product.
No, yeah, I'm gonna pay someone to pay. I'm gonna get someone to do a cover that basically I want them to the art order instructions are gonna be, you know, make it so gruesome that they're gonna want to. A game store, they want to keep it behind the counter.
There you go. Good idea. Of course, there aren't going to be any game stores by then, but
right?
Fair enough.
Yeah. Okay. That's true.
They're all going out of business.
All right. Thanks everyone for coming. It was a blast.
See you next time, everyone. Thank you.